step into a world transformed by one man's extraordinary actions. Meet J. Robert Oppenheimer, the mysterious genius behind the atomic bomb. Follow his gripping journey from the groundbreaking Manhattan Project to the challenging landscape of Cold War politics. This is no ordinary tale. It is a roller coaster ride of triumphs and trials, where the line between hero and villain blurs and the boundaries of morality are tested. J. Robert Oppenheimer was born on April 22, 1904, in New York City. His parents were German Jewish immigrants, and from a young age, Oppenheimer displayed a passion for minerals. He corresponded with the New York Mineralogical Club, impressing them with his writings, and was invited to deliver a lecture at the age of 12. In 1922, Oppenheimer enrolled at Harvard University to study chemistry. Although he excelled in his studies and graduated at the top of his class 3 years later, his interest in physics drew him in a different direction. He then traveled to Cambridge, UK, to pursue graduate work in physics at Cavendish Laboratory, under the guidance of J.J. Thomson, the Nobel Prize-winning scientist who discovered the electron. A year later, Oppenheimer found himself in Germany studying at the University of Göttingen, a prestigious center for theoretical physics. He had been invited there by Max Born, the director of the Institute of Theoretical Physics. In Germany, Oppenheimer made significant contributions to the newly developed quantum theory, including the Born-Oppenheimer approximation for molecular wave functions, which gained recognition in the scientific community. By 1927, Oppenheimer had obtained his doctorate and held professorships at the University of California, Berkeley, and the California Institute of Technology. Over the next 13 years, he divided his time between the two institutions, conducting groundbreaking research in various scientific fields such as nuclear physics, quantum field theory, and astrophysics. In collaboration with his student Hartland Snyder, Oppenheimer published a paper in 1939 that predicted the existence of black holes, solidifying his scientific reputation. However, despite being nominated for a Nobel Prize 3 times, he never received the prestigious award. Amidst Oppenheimer's academic pursuits and the bustling laboratories, his personal life became entangled in a complex web of romantic relationship with Jean Tatlock, a vibrant and politically charged woman who entered Oppenheimer's life, leaving an indelible mark on his heart. Tatlock, a member of the Communist Party, would play a significant role in the years to come, a detail that would later threaten to disrupt Oppenheimer's professional life. But like any intense flame, their love story was destined to flicker and fade. Eventually, their relationship came to an end, leaving behind a trail of memories and a lingering shadow that would later cast itself over Oppenheimer's life. Tatlock was a complex individual who is known to have struggled with her sexuality. She also suffered from intense depression and would take her own life in 1944. In 1940, Oppenheimer married Catherine "Kitty" Pooning, a radical Berkeley student and former member of the Communist Party. They welcomed their first child, Peter, in 1941, and their second child, Catherine, 3 years later. As the 1930s unfolded, Oppenheimer became increasingly politically aware. He recognized the potential threat posed by Nazi Germany and its pursuit of nuclear weapons. When World War II erupted in Europe, in 1939, Oppenheimer eagerly joined the efforts of his country to develop its own nuclear weapon. In 1942, General Leslie Groves invited Oppenheimer to become the scientific director of the Manhattan Project, the top-secret U.S. project to develop the atomic bomb. After Oppenheimer had selected a location in Los Alamos, New Mexico, the U.S. Army went about constructing a series of laboratories there. The best minds in physics across America and Europe were brought to Los Alamos and tasked with creating a bomb like no other the world had ever seen. Oppenheimer's team of just a few hundred soon grew to several thousand, all under his direction, as American taxpayer money flooded into the project. What began with an initial budget of $6,000 soon skyrocketed to a staggering $2 billion by 1945. Although Oppenheimer had little experience managing a project of this scale, he quickly learned the ropes, repaying the faith that General Groves had bestowed upon him. Prior to leading the Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer taught physics at both Caltech and the University of California, Berkeley, where he transformed the physics program into a prominent center for research in the United States. Oppenheimer had already been engaged in the study of nuclear fission, the release of tremendous energy resulting from the splitting of an atom. Uranium, the heaviest naturally occurring element, proved to be the most suitable for this purpose. An atom of uranium contains 92 protons and 146 neutrons, giving it an atomic mass of 238 U-238. However, a small portion of mined uranium possesses only 143 neutrons, resulting in U-235. This is highly unstable and easily split or fissioned. When a neutron collides with U-235, it transforms into U-236, which is incredibly unstable, and splits into two atoms, krypton and barium, releasing 3 additional neutrons in the process. These newly released neutrons go on to collide with more U-235 atoms, initiating a chain reaction that ultimately led to a tremendous explosion. Just 3 years after the project began, Oppenheimer and his team were ready to test their atomic bomb. The Trinity Test was conducted on the 16th of July, 1945, at Alamogordo, New Mexico, where an anxious Oppenheimer watched from a control bunker as the world's first nuclear explosion erupted. After the bright flash of light, it was observed that Oppenheimer breathed a huge sigh of relief. His team had done it. His first words reportedly were, "I guess it worked." He later famously recalled that the history-defining moment had brought to mind words from a sacred Hindu text.
We knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
The following month, the U.S. military dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan on August 6, 1945. The most powerful weapon in the world was dropped on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. 140,000 people were killed, many vaporized. Thousands more would die in pain in the months and years that followed from radiation poisoning. 3 days later, another bomb fell on Nagasaki, killing 74,000 people with equally devastating effects. Japan surrendered 6 days later, abruptly ending World War II. A few days later, he secured a meeting with President Truman, where he expressed his revulsion at Nagasaki, telling the president that he felt there was blood on his hands. The president had little time for Oppenheimer's moralistic stance and famously stated to his aides after the meeting, "I never want to see that son of a bitch in this office again." After the war, Oppenheimer became a household name and featured on the covers of both Life and Time magazines. In 1947, he became chairman of the General Advisory Committee of the Atomic Energy Commission, AEC. During his time there, Oppenheimer opposed the development of the more powerful hydrogen bomb, a position that put him in the firing line of those who wanted to take a firm stance against the growing Soviet threat. It wasn't too long before his enemies got their way. Denounced as having communist sympathies, in 1954, Oppenheimer was called before a tribunal of the Atomic Energy Commission to explain his communist affiliations. It was a closed-door hearing that lasted 4 weeks. Oppenheimer maintained that he had not been radicalized by his ex-partner, and said his left-wing friends and associations simply gave him a sense of companionship, nothing more. He had never been a Communist Party member himself. 3 board members heard his case by a vote of 2-1. They stripped him of his security clearance. The guy who delivered the verdict was none other than Strauss, who hated him. Oppenheimer was removed from his role at the AEC in 1954 and stripped of all security clearances, effectively losing his political influence at the same time. Once powerful scientist lost all his power. The U.S. government no longer trusted the U.S. government. Test atomic physicist. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy awarded Oppenheimer the Enrico Fermi Award, although President Lyndon B. Johnson presented him with it after JFK's assassination. The award was not only an apologetic gesture, but also one that signified political rehabilitation for the famed scientist. In his later years, Oppenheimer continued to lobby for international control of nuclear weapons and atomic energy. On the 18th of February, 1967, he died of throat cancer in Princeton, New Jersey, just a year after retiring. His wife took his ashes to the island of St. John, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where he lived for several months of the year, and spread his ashes in the sea outside of their home, in an area known today as Oppenheimer Beach. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more interesting videos.